Um, Tonight, Greenwich, Connecticut's Catherine Ladnier shares with us the haunting World War II letters exchanged between a sister and a brother, the sister from a farm family in South Carolina, and the brother in the China Burma India theater of war in World War II. Catherine's southern mother, Eva Lee Brown, is the inspiration for her collecting letters about the war from different people to each other during the war. And it started because of her mother when she was cleaning out the family homestead in South Carolina after her mother passed away in 2001. She discovered all of these wonderful World War II era letters that her mother had written to servicemen and servicemen had written to her during the war. And so then she began collecting letters. And she always had an interest in drama and acting, and so she was moved to create plays about these letters, based on these letters. She said, to tell the story of those ordinary folk who faced extraordinary challenges during a time when the world was at war. So in addition to Dear Sis, which you're going to hear tonight, she's also created productions of Merci Yanks, Love in the Time of War, The Girls Back Home, and Dear Eva. And she's performed these, presented these at venues such as Mills College and the Greenwich Historic Society and at the FDR Library in Hyde Park. So please welcome Catherine tonight.
This is my regular speaking voice. I'm from Los Angeles. But I'm getting ready to enter a time machine. And I think you all are going to join it with me. And I'm entering the time machine, and I'm going to be Eva Lee Brown of Easel, South Carolina. My name is Eva Lee. Eva to all my kith and kin back home. I'm a Southerner, a South Carolinian. I'm named for Aunt Evie, Mama's aunt, and born into a family of Scots-Irish who could trace their roots to those poor Presbyterian souls who left Northern Ireland for a good place to farm and pray. We Southerners are storytellers, just like our Irish forebears. We pass on our stories from one generation to the next, of course add a little something along the way. And we don't throw anything away. That's the Scots in our blood. So I'm going to tell you all a story about another time, a time of love and war, surely a strange mix of potent brew. We lived during a time of uncertainty and fear and learned to live with the concoction. My story is true, though as a Southerner, I am at liberty to embellish. The truth part of my story comes from all the letters I saved during the war. Oh, Lordy, I saved everything. I saved everybody's letters, some from soldiers, some from women on the home front, and all the letters my brother Bill wrote to me, his big sister. I put him in a trunk with postcards, photographs, and other keepsakes from those years. I will now open that old trunk, and we will get back to another time. I was 5 years old when my mama died. Mama died in the old farmhouse, in the same bed in which I was born, my brother Bill was born, and my sister Judy was born. For as long as I can remember, I was the mother of the family. I took care of Bill, Judy, Papa, and Uncle Adja. Aunt Evie always worried about her little brother on account of his ailment. You see, Uncle Adja was a cripple and he couldn't speak real good. I would sweep and dust and cook. Cornbread, biscuits and gravy, chocolate cake, and fried chicken. I even killed the chickens by wringing their necks. I hate chicken and I won't eat it till my dying day. Life was never easy on the farm. Oh, Lordy, but life got even more difficult with the Great Depression, and I do mean great. Debts, crop failure, and all those foreclosure notices from that damn lawyer in Greenville. Dear Miss Brown, we wish to remind you that the banknote of $186.89 matured. Please give this matter your immediate attention. Otherwise, it will be necessary for us to file a claim with the Federal Housing Administrator in Washington, D.C. For your information, if we are forced to file a claim with the Federal Housing Administrator, he will immediately turn the note over to the United States Department of Justice for collection. Very sincerely yours. Yeah, Department of Justice, my foot. Oh, where was I? I digress. The Great Depression. The Depression was mighty hard on people in my neck of the woods. But Papa always looked on the bright side. Eva Lee, we ain't that bad off. Hope springs eternal. We had our farm. Well, that damn bank had part of the farm. But Papa paid that no mind. We had our whole cow. We had our pigs. We had those damn chickens. And Bill was mighty good with his hands, while my little brother could build just about anything. One day, Papa said we needed more than hope. We needed them Yankee dollars. So Papa took a job as a mail carrier, and I became a saleswoman. I sold Fay Wood Cosmetics. Bessie up on Mill Hill was one of my best customers. Oh, back in 1938, our lives took a different turn every which ways. Papa, Uncle Adge, and I were on the front porch, just rocking in those old chairs, talking about the crops. I was shelling sugar peas for supper. Supper, that's dinner for Yankees. Well, here comes Bill, all dressed up in his Sunday clothes, and it wasn't Sunday. He had just come back from town. Bill looked mighty fine and serious. I'm heading north. There just ain't enough work in our little town. Going to take the Crescent tomorrow. Bill, I reckon that leaving is the best. Don't worry about anything here at home. I'll take care of Papa and Uncle Adger and your pigs. June the 27th, 1938, Papa, Bill, and I hitched up the buggy and rode into town. Bill boarded the Crescent in Greenville. The train pulled out of that old station. Destination, Washington, D.C. Papa said, a cloud's coming. Yes, Papa, a big, dark cloud. It rained all day. We went home. Uncle Adger went to his old rocker and just rocked and rocked. Uncle Adger, don't worry. Bill will come back home one day. Bill, where are you? The tie that binds was now a letter. The postman became my best friend. Dear Sis, I'm sorry I've not written to you. I have been working very regular. I have worked on several jobs and made 10 cents an hour. I worked today for 7.5 hours and made $3. So I have about $7 coming to me now. I will send you some money so you can pay our debts. I am your brother Bill. Ooh, Bill sure couldn't make that much down here. Why, folks from around here were heading up north. Lordy, I thought I was the only soul left south of the Mason-Dixon line. Dear Sis, I'm sending you $3 this morning. I want you to pay some on Papa's insurance. Today I start to work regular on the largest project of its kind in the world. It is a $6 million job and will last for 3 years. Oh, Eva, I have not been sightseeing. What do you think of that? Lord have mercy, Bill. Papa's sleeping better these days, just sending those letters of good news and them Yankee dollars. Dear Sis, don't worry about me. I can take care of myself. I don't have time to spree around. There are a lot of soldier boys. Dear Sis, you have to ask me so many questions that I don't know where to start. First, I'm still well and growing fat. I did not have a chance to weigh, but I believe I tipped the scales at better than 160 pounds. Lordy, I weighed only 145 when I got up here. There are more soldiers coming every day. More soldiers. September the 1st, 1939. World War II began, but for Eva Lee, the war was over there. And the war could stay over there. Dear sis, I'm working regular and will send you $7 this week. Oh, about the war. It's hard to tell what people up here think. Most people believe the U.S. can stay out of the war. The question is hard to answer. Arsenal of democracy. That's what President Roosevelt said. We will send as many weapons as we can produce. No man can tame a tiger into a kitten by stroking it. Can we stay out of the war? Another war over there? I quit thinking. Your brother Bill. War? Papa said the war was over there, and, well, we already had our war, and we lost. Dear sis, it's been a long time since I've written to you. There is no excuse I could give that would be adequate. I just didn't feel like writing to anyone. If things keep up as they are, you're going to have a soldier boy for a brother before long. The war is looking mighty bad now. It may not be long before we enter the war. Only Britain stands between us and the Nazis. How can we stay out of this war? Oh, the big news for today, September the 9th, 1940, the Senate passed the conscription bill today. The age limit's 21 and 44. Right soon. Eva, I don't want to fight. Dear sis, I'm sorry I have not written to you. Oh yes, I will have to go to the Army after a while. There's no way out for me. If it's possible, I want to get into the Aviation Corps. There's more money in that branch of the service. Oh, last night I went over to Herbie Mann's house and we had a good old South Carolina hot dog supper. You can't get chili on hot dogs up here. Imagine that. Herbie said he sure would like to have some of your fried chicken. I am your brother Bill. Lordy. Aunt Evie always said that the way to a man's heart was through his stomach. I only wish that the way to a man's heart was paved with cornbread. Dear sis. Dear Bill, Papa carried 3 of your pigs to pasture last week. They sure are growing and you won't know them. The wheat is looking good. Papa wants to replant the corn. I told Papa we have enough corn and I'm sending you some chow-chow. Uncle Andrew sits on the front porch, rocking. He wants to know when you're coming home. Army? What about your web feet? Didn't the Army turn you down in 1937 for web feet? Web feet. Wow, Lordy, yes, web feet are now in fashion. Dear sis, I had to go for physical examination for the draft last Wednesday. Also taking the exam at the same time was Edgar Webb. Do you remember him? He has been up here over a month and living with a half mile of me. And I did not know it. He's doing construction work too. He said that he sure would like to have a slice of your good chocolate cake right soon. Your brother Bill. P.S. Forget the web feed. The draft board said I was good as gone. Oh, Lordy, Bill was in the Army. Papa put a sign in the front parlor window. May God bless our boy. We are praying for him. Dear sis, tell the lawyer that I'm being drafted into the Army. They tell me that my obligation to him will stand dormant until I get out of the Army and have another job. Tell him that I will be down to see him between December the 1st and the 24th. I'll be home for Christmas. One last time before I go. Where, I don't know. Your brother Bill. P.S. I'm not making very much as a soldier. With $27 a month coming out of my salary, plus insurance and laundry, I do not have very much money. On top of that, I have to have a haircut every week. Dear Bill, you'd be right tickled to know that Papa bought a radio. Sears Silvertone with Strato Beam reception. It cost $19.95. Papa said to hell with an FHA loan. Can you imagine Papa said hell? Papa and Uncle Adger sit in the front parlor after supper and listen to the Arthur Smith radio show. Remember Ben Robertson from Clemson, the newspaper man? Well, wouldn't you know it, but Ben is now in London. He's writing about the bombing of London. Ben said London is burning. It was a quiet Sunday. Papa, Uncle Adger, and I were listening to our favorite show when we interrupt this program, December the 7th, 1941. What about Bill? Dear folks, I received your letters today and was glad to hear from you. I will try to answer all your questions. The first is that I'm in Camp Shelby, Mississippi. If it is possible to get that furlough after the first of the month, but as you know, you can't make plans in the Army. Something always messes them up. Dear folks, just a line to let you know that I am still alive and kicking. Just how much longer I will be that way, who knows? I have been working 18 hours a day. We are getting ready for foreign duty. We must have our equipment packed and on the train by the 15th. When it will pull out and where it's going, no one knows. Write real soon, as always. P.S. My new address is 853rd Engineer Aviation Battalion, APO, New York, New York. P.P.S. I am now a lieutenant in the 853rd. Write soon. Bless your heart, Bill. Papa, Uncle Adger's so proud of you. Papa looks out the parlor window just waiting for your letters. For the longest time, we didn't hear from Bill. No letters. I told Papa and Uncle Adger that Bill would write when he got to wherever Uncle Sam sent him. Don't worry, Papa. But I was worried. I looked out the parlor window with Papa. Where's Bill? I wish I knew. He must be on his way across. Nothing would keep him from writing for this length of time. If only Uncle Sam would drop a card soon to let us know where he is and that he's arrived at his destination safely. And then one day, my best friend, the mailman, came to the door with news. A letter from Bill. Dear folks, it has been quite a long time since I've written. I had quite a nice boat ride. At present, I am somewhere in North Africa. It's a very beautiful country. There's a range of mountains that remind me of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It sure makes me homesick. I'm in the best of health. I have not received any mail since I left the States and have not been able to send any out. We are fixing to have a rifle inspection, so I better hurry with this note. I have run out of words for now. So until I get to where we are going, keep writing. As ever, Bill. Dear Sis, just a note to let you know that I'm still alive and kicking. It is near Christmas, and I'm in no place to get any gifts for the family. I think of you every day, though, and I wish I was there with you. We have not received any mail since we left the States. We are still in North Africa, and I don't know when we will be leaving. I have seen quite a few sites that are beyond description, places that have been bombed and destroyed by this war. Keep writing. Love, Bill. I wrote to Bill every day. He just wanted news from home, just little ordinary things. Today is my birthday. I'm 29. It doesn't seem that I could really be that old. It was just another day. Papa hoed cotton all day. I picked green beans for tomorrow's supper. Papa got our ration books. Can you believe it cost 10 points for sugar? Papa said we had to count our points for Bill and our fighting men. Papa even takes our old tin cans to the salvage committee. Who would have thought you could turn an old tin can into a bullet? We got a letter from Bill today. He sent a money order for $50 for our Christmas gifts. and the FHA note is below $100. It's a blessing. Bill said not to worry about him. He said his round-trip ticket was good and he intended to keep it. Papa prays more these days. Uncle Andrew just rocks and rocks in his old rocker. Then no letters from Bill. November and Thanksgiving came. Papa just looked out the parlor window. Then one day, we received a letter from Bill. 4 weeks since his last letter. I almost cried. He didn't say much. There's so little he can tell us. But he did say that circumstances have kept them in North Africa even longer than they had hoped. Dear sis, I am now somewhere in India. You will have to guess exactly where I am, and by that time I will be somewhere else. Eva, those questions you asked me have to go unanswered for the time being. Somewhere in India, circumstances. And Evie always said we would know in good time. No time like the present, and Christmas is coming. Papa said the best Christmas would be news from Bill. Dear folks, this is just a note to you on this Christmas Day to wish you the best of everything for the coming year. I'm in the best of health and expect to stay that way. We are having the usual Army Christmas turkey dinner, and I will do justice to that Christmas dinner. The best Christmas I could have would be news from home. I know you are writing, and I will catch up with my mail one day. So until then, keep writing. I'm always thinking of you. Bill, the new year of 1944 will bring an end to this old war. Don't worry, I'll cook a big pot of black-eyed peas for good luck. Well, Happy New Year, 1944. And more letters from Bill. It was a cold, rainy day that January in 1944. No letter from Bill. A letter from Oklahoma City. We didn't have any kinfolks in Oklahoma. Please forgive this mimeographed letter, but I have secured the home addresses of the officers of the 853rd Engineers Aviation Battalion and am writing each of their families, hoping to secure some information about their accident in the Mediterranean. On December the 28th, I received a telegram from the War Department stating that my husband, Fred H. Leach, had been missing in action since November the 26th in the North Africa area. Missing in action. I'm eagerly seeking some information pertaining to this tragedy, and if you help me, my deepest appreciation will be offered. I hope from the bottom of my heart that your news is more pleasant than ours. Very sincerely, Mrs. Fred H. Leach. What accident? Bill, you never wrote about any accident. How do I tell Pop and Uncle Adger? Dear sis, those questions you ask me have to go unanswered until I get home. I sat down and I wrote Mrs. Leach. Dear Mrs. Leach, I am Lieutenant Brown's sister Anne. February the 8th, 1944. Dear Miss Brown, it was most kind of you to write to me so soon. Yes, my husband and Lieutenant Brown were close friends. In fact, all the officers of 853rd were quite congenial. There were only 35, so they became quite intimate in their close association. However, our closest friends were the officers whose wives were with them, and of course, socially acquainted. I acquired the home addresses of the officers and wrote to their families, hoping to hear some rumors that would give me more hope. As yet, I haven't had any definite news other than 8 officers have been reported missing, including my husband. I'm teaching school, which helps to pass the long hours away, and I live on the last sentence my husband wrote, November the 17th. If I don't come back, keep your chin up, and perhaps it will help others to do so. That must have been just before they were moved. Thank you again for your kindness. and tell Lieutenant Brown hello for me when you write. How do I tell Papa and Uncle Adger? Keep your chin up. Why didn't Bill tell me? Dear sis, there's so little I can tell you and I don't know what to tell you, so I will skip it for the present time. But I can tell you that I'm still alive and kicking. So all I can say now is to keep your chin up and smile. We will be home before long. Your brother. Keep your chin up. That's what Lieutenant Leach said. Dear sis, I'm still alive and kicking in India. There's very little that I have to write about. We work all the time and the heat is terrific. In fact, all the weight I gained has melted off. Those questions you ask me have to go unanswered until I get back home. Of course, there was an article in the paper sometime about our accident. Keep writing. I'd like to hear from you often. Bill, why can't you tell us about the accident? Papa, Uncle Adger, and I were sitting by the radio, waiting to hear from President Roosevelt. December the 6th, 1944. President Franklin Roosevelt. Almighty God, our sons, pride of the nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. And for us at home, help us, Almighty God, to rededicate ourselves in the renewed faith in Thee in this hour of great sacrifice. Dear folks, that D-Day has finally arrived and things have started. I know it won't be long before we begin to see the end of this war. This old war will be over and we can be together again. Keep writing, Bill. Dear sis, I'm still alive and kicking. I'm standing the heat fairly well and not losing too much weight. There's very little news I can write. The war news is good. You probably hear more about the war than I do. It looks as though Germany will be out of the picture. It won't take long now. It sure can't get over too soon for me. Dear folks, here I am again, after so long, with nothing to say for myself. I am well, as could be expected, lonesome and blue. We have the same president for the next 4 years. I believe President Roosevelt is the best man for the job. I am glad we did not make a change. I hope that things will start happening in Europe and it will be over. And Thanksgiving is around the corner. Dear folks, just a few lines to let you know that I'm still alive and kicking. A person does not know how to appreciate what he has until he has to go off and leave it. I could not complain about anything anymore. Soon we will celebrate Thanksgiving Day again. We have plenty to be thankful for. I don't think I will ever forget Thanksgiving Day last year and the day after. Love, Bill. Bill, dear folks, I don't know how to start this letter. I can't tell you how the news of Uncle Adger's death affected me. I know he's in a better place now and will have no pain or sorrow. I only wish I could have been home to see him more. He always talked about William coming home. It will be a different homecoming and I'll find Uncle Adger on the porch waiting for me. Uncle Adger wanted to join the army during the last war, the war to end all wars. Papa took him to the draft board in Easley, and he said it was his duty to his country. June the 5th, 1917. Those army fellows filled out the registration card stating in black and white that Uncle Adger was deaf and dumb. He wasn't dumb. He was our uncle. Dear Bill, we had a nice service for Uncle Adger at Fairview Methodist Church. Mrs. Carmen played the piano. Remember Mrs. Carmen from Liberty? Well, she played one of Uncle's favorite hymns. The congregation cried so when she played Going Home. Going home, I'm just going home. Quiet like some still day, I'm just going home. It's not far, just close by, through an open door. Work all done, care laid by, going to fear no more. They played the same hymn when President Roosevelt died. Pop and I went to town to see the train carrying President Roosevelt's body back to Washington. Everybody in town was on Main Street. The train passed by so slowly. Papa said President Roosevelt and Uncle Andrew were going home. Uncle is now with Mama and Aunt Evie. Dear folks, today's my 31st birthday, and I've been overseas for the past 18 months. These past 18 months have been exciting, and I've seen quite a bit of the world. There's nothing very serious that has happened to me, except for that time in the Mediterranean. A Thanksgiving I will never forget. I hope and pray that before another 18 months has gone by, I will see you again. The news from the fronts sure sound good. I don't see how Germany can last much longer. The Japanese are catching hell now, too. Right soon, always Bill. Accident in the Mediterranean. What happened? Dear sis, those questions you asked me must go unanswered until I get home. Dear sis, I'm now in China after a hard trip over the Lido-Burma road. But I'm alive and kicking. I hope to be back in India before many more days have passed so I get news from home. I have not heard any news for over 2 weeks, so I'm very much in the dark as to what is happening in the world. How are the crops? Tell me all the gossip in the community. Dear folks, just to let you know that I'm back on the old job in India and in good health. And I feel fit as a fiddle. Eva, I had only one letter from you. I sure am surprised to hear that you want to join the Red Cross and come over here. My advice is a definite no. For one thing, you're not strong enough for the strenuous life that you have to live. Too many men and too few women. Another thing, it's no life for a sister of mine. Too many men and too few women. I kind of like those odds. Dear sis, it's May 4th, and I think of the cherry blossoms in Washington. How is the farm? No cherry blossoms in India. How are the folks down on the farm? I hope the crops have been planted. There's nothing happening here. We hardly have any work to do. We're just killing time and taking things easy. By the time you get this letter, the war in Europe should be over, and then we will see what is going to happen to Japan. Write soon and tell me all the news. P.S. Did you notice the envelope? Effective July 1st, First Lieutenant William George Brown. I only wish Uncle Andrew could be with us. Dear Bill, Papa said the war will be over before corn is ready to pick. I'm fixing to make chow chow for the homecoming at Fairview Church. I'm listening to the broadcast from Tokyo. It's over. Dear sis, it's been a long time since I've written. Of course, since VJ Day, we've been pretty busy. You asked what I would like for Christmas. Well, the easiest thing to tell you is, I want to be home. You asked how I celebrated VJ Day? Well, I got plenty drunk. We had a holiday August the 15th, and then another when the Japanese signed the papers. Dear folks, just a few lines to tell you hello and say I'm still alive and kicking. Getting ready for that homecoming as fast as I can. Our unit will be discharged upon reaching the USA. We are just waiting for a train and a boat so we can start the road back to the good old US of A. We should be home for Christmas if not before. So get ready to kill the fatted calf. Effective as of the time you receive this, there will be no more letters from me. As ever, Bill. Bill is coming home at long last. Papa hitched up the wagon and we rode into town. Papa and I sat in the old station waiting. Eva Lee, do you remember when we were here and Bill boarded the train and headed north? There was a dark cloud and, yes, Papa, a very dark cloud, and it rained all day. Look, Eva Lee, the sun is shining and not a cloud in the sky. Papa, here comes the train. Bill is coming home. Thank you, Aunt Evie. Thank you. I will now get out of my time machine and return to August the 10th, 2021. After reading all these letters, I was very confused about the circumstances that my uncle would write about. What happened that Thanksgiving Day in the Mediterranean? 2004, I called my cousin Andrew, the only child of my uncle and Aunt May. Uncle Bill met May Titherington when he took a job at Fort Belvoir. Andrew sent me a letter Uncle Bill wrote to Aunt May, September 1945. Now I know. Do you all want to hear it? Wasn't it Betty Davis who said, hang on, it's going to be a bumpy ride? Okay, hang on. Panatola, India, September the 23rd, 1945. My dearest wife, I don't know how this letter is going to turn out, but I'm going to try and give you a brief summary of the past 2 years. Now, don't expect too much, as it may be very dull. Our unit left the U.S. from Newport News, Virginia. We were at Camp Patrick Henry for 3 weeks. On the 3rd of October, 1943, we sailed in a large convoy of Liberty ships for North Africa. 22 days later, we landed in Oran, Algeria, in North Africa. On the 24th of November, 1943, our entire organization loaded on the British transport HMT, His Majesty Transport Rona, and pulled out of the harbor for the night and sailed toward India on the 25th, Thanksgiving Day. The morning of the 26th, we had a practice alert and were told the next time the Clacton horn sounded, it would be the real McCoy. About 330 hours, we had dinner. After dinner, a few of us went into the salon and started shooting dice. This was about 1600 hours. Just about a half hour had passed when the klaxon sounded. We stopped, picked up our life belts. I went down to my cabin and picked up my camera, field glasses, belt, canteen pistol, went down the troop deck. Our men were kidding me and each other that it was a dry run. I told them it was an air raid and went up topside. I watched the fireworks from the stern for 45 minutes. It was a beautiful sight while it lasted. There were 32 German planes that came over in groups of 8. They would circle our convoy and turn loose their glider bombs. About 5 minutes later, I saw one of those bombs turned loose by the same bomber. It followed behind the plane for a while, then got ahead of it. It made a right-hand bank and started towards our ship. It was a little off course, so it did another right bank and left bank. Our Air Corps captain hollered, "Glider bomb, look out!" About that time, it hit the ship dead center, just above the waterline. It penetrated the engine room and exploded, knocking a hole on the other side of the ship below the waterline. The engine room was completely destroyed. All power and means of communication were cut. The hole where the bomb entered the ship was large enough to drive an army truck through sideways. I went to my station on the lifeboat deck to take charge of the men as they came out. Everyone was in a panic and did not know what to do. I tried to quiet the men down and started to help take care of the injured persons. The cries of anguish and pain is something I will never forget. There were men that were caught under timbers and could not get out. Men burned beyond recognition. Fire started almost immediately and began to spread fast. As many men who could make it were in the water in about 45 minutes. There was only one lifeboat that got into the water without crashing. I saw my mess sergeant, and he was covered in dough from head to foot, and he did not have a life belt. He was deathly afraid of the water and could not swim. I tried to give him my belt, but he wouldn't take it. I went hunting for him, but when I got back, he was gone. By this time, there were very few men left on the boat. I rented 2 of our offers, and we threw everything we could over the side. It was almost 1800 hours when we decided it was time for us to go over the side. Now one of those who officers could not swim, so we had him to hold down a second. I came down rope last. On the way down the net, another sergeant was coming up again. He did not have a life belt and could not swim. Again, I tried to give him mine, but still no go. He went to try to find one for himself. I wish now I'd knocked him out and carried him with me. I never saw him again. I hit the water and it was plenty cold, but I did not mind at all. I made one stroke and caught hold of a small raft. There were 2 other officers. The one that could not swim was on the raft and holding on for dear life. When we left the ship for the water, the ammunition in the hull was exploding and making a beautiful display of fireworks. The fire was so hot that the side of the ship was red. My watch stopped at 6:25 p.m. On our raft, we had a sergeant and a major in the medical corps and 3 853rd officers. We picked up another man a few minutes later who was severely burned. We all hung on for dear life and swam and held on to one of the ropes until I got the cramps on my legs and then pulled myself upon the raft to rest. About 30 minutes after we left the ship, she was ablaze all over. About 5 minutes more, she was completely gone. We rode to the top of a large wave and could see the ship. Down we went into a trough about 30 feet deep, and when we came up, she was no more. All this time, German planes were coming over. Just before the ship sank, one bomber flew low over her, probably to take pictures. It was plenty dark by this time, and the rescue ship could only turn the spotlights on for a short time. We finally drifted in close enough to a British destroyer to get picked up. We had found another raft that was not being used, so we tied the 2 together, and all of us just sat and waited and drifted with the tide and wind. The lower part of my body was so cramped that I had to pick my legs up with my hands to keep from getting crushed between the ship and the raft. When I was on deck and on my feet, the sailors turned me loose and I almost hit the deck face down before they caught me. We were all in good rub down and hot tea we could get. This little boat picked up about 100 men. There were 3 boats, 2 destroyers and 1 transport that picked up survivors. The destroyer Pioneer picked up the most, about 300 men. We all put into shore at Phillipsburg and stayed at a British camp until we got a few clothes. There were other rescue boats that put out from shore to pick up 200 or 300 more men. We lost better than 60% of our personnel and 10 officers. We had an uneventful trip to the rest of India. After we went through the Suez Canal, it got plenty hot, and it's been hot ever since. We landed in Bombay the 1st of February, and we got our first mail in over a month. I was sure happy, a group of men, when those mail bags were open. 3 days later, we loaded on a train for our trip across India. For 4 nights and 3 days, we saw India as it really is, a land of heat, stink, and starvation. Every stop we made, there were hundreds around begging for anything they could get. We arrived in Calcutta on February the 10th. We stayed there a few days and picked up a few trucks that were about to fall apart and about 150 Air Corps casualties, and returned to Chindula, where we stayed for 6 months. Our job there was to produce gravel for the large B-29 field being built. Gosh, I didn't expect this to turn into a book. I better stop now before I take writer's cramp and your eyes get so sore you can't read. I will continue my narrative at a later date. Honey, I love you so much, and I miss you so much that it's almost unbearable. It seems that time is just standing still now that this old war is over. I must be just a little too impatient to get home to the one I love so much. I love you, my sweet, with all my heart. Always, Bill. Uncle Bill survived the sinking of the H&T Rona, the worst at-sea disaster in U.S. history, a disaster that even today remains largely unknown to history. On that Thanksgiving Day, November the 26th, 1943, the Rona was hit by a radio-controlled, rocket-guided missile, a new weapon of war. The Rona was a British troop ship, but the servicemen were American soldiers. The largest unit was the 853rd Engineers Aviation Battalion, Uncle Bill's unit. More than 1,000 U.S. soldiers died on the Rona. One soldier who died was Lieutenant Fred H. Leach. Did Mrs. Leach ever know what happened to her husband? Unlikely. The Rona disaster was classified by President Roosevelt and Prime Minister Winston Churchill. I like to quote Rudyard Kipling, "If history were told in the form of stories, it would never be forgotten." I hope that I'll be able to tell the story of the Rona and Uncle Bill for some years to come. Thank you so much. And I would appreciate any comments. I will let you know New England was greatly affected by the disaster in the Rona. New Hampshire lost 4 sons, Massachusetts 27, Connecticut 16, Rhode Island 6, New York 133, my mother's native state of South Carolina 5, Vermont 3, and Maine 6. And you could go to the library here in town, check out every single book on World War II. You will find nothing on the Rona. A few years ago, I did a program with 2 members of the Rona Survivors Association, which I joined in 2005. We did a program at the FDR Library. The FDR Library, never heard of it. Go to the Imperial War Museum in London. Nothing. And has anybody here ever heard of the Rona? Yeah, if you had, I'd be really surprised. The 853rd, which suffered so tremendously, was a new unit that was formed in Dyersburg, Tennessee. And my husband's from Memphis, and we lived in Memphis for 10 years. And 2 years ago, we were in Memphis, and I drove up to Dyersburg, and which the Veterans Museum there is on the base where the Rona was formed. And I told the director there about the Rona, 853rd, and do you know what the response was? Huh? Here in Dyersburg? Really? And I live in Connecticut, and the enlisted men in the 853rd came from, guess where? Bradley Field. And the Connecticut Historical Society, nothing on the Rona. So it is one of those mysteries that unfortunately remains unknown. There are several theories why it's remained unknown. And one is that it was a British troop ship, and the American government deferred to the British. And I've been to several Rona reunions and talked to survivors, and they said the Rona, it was not fit for service. And one survivor called it a rust bucket. And I'm sure the British didn't want that news getting out. But it's a very sad situation. I mean, it's quite tragic, and it's something that shouldn't be lost to history. Well, two of our members, Michael Walsh, his stepfather, he's our past president of the Rona Survivors Association. The Rona was not declassified until sometime in the 90s. And the survivors were told, after they got to India, that they could not write home about it. They'd be court-martialed. So Uncle Bill certainly took a chance by writing this letter in 1945. And he told it in great detail. And Michael, at every reunion, would videotape survivors and their family, and had quite a history of videotapes. And in 2018, we had a new member, Jack Ballow, and his wife Barbara, and they live in a house in New Jersey in which had been Barbara's family for more than 100 years. Jack is a documentary filmmaker, and he was in the attic one day, and lo and behold, he found letters. Did some research, found out that Barbara's uncle, who was, I think, a mere 19 years old at the time, sank, went down with the Rona. And they were working on a documentary called Rona Classified, It's Time to Tell the Truth, which they're hoping will come out at the end of the year. But it's, needless to say, we lose survivors every year. In fact, we don't have any survivors left. I think Gus died early this year, and it's just something that I wish more people knew about. So that's really all I have to say. If you have any comments or questions.